This is fun. I've tried to record this a few times, so I'm hoping that that's gonna make this even more potent and effective. Um, I think we were all expecting an in-person circle today, and when I checked in with my helpers, they were like, "No, people can barely show up right now, so having to like introduce ourselves and go through all of that, nah, right?" So today, what we're doing is we're going to spend some time together. We're going to connect to our heart space. And if you don't know what that feels like, hopefully you'll feel it by the end of our time together. But the idea today is really just to take some time for yourself, right? We are all inundated right now with atrocities at every corner. And it's important for us to acknowledge that and to check in with our energetic systems and see how they're doing and ask for a bit of a recharge, right? That's part of what we get to do on this planet. Um, so that's what we're going to do here today is we're going to check in into our heart space. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to turn off your notifications if you can. And that's just giving your nervous system a break, right? We are all on high alert. Our bodies are not made for this, right? We're not meant to experience this kind of trauma in an ongoing way without having spiritual, energetic outlet, right? So we're going to do a little bit of that work today. And the first thing we're going to do, and this isn't an infomercial for my book, but what we've forgotten is a platform. It's it's how I survive, and it's a book, and I'm going to read from it because I think it's poignant with kind of where we are right now. But also, I think, it's a good way in terms of talking about spiritual activism and, what we can do with our energy. Because I know we're all feeling depleted. And it's like, how can I help when I'm depleted? And I'm going to give you a way. I'm going to give you a way to feel better. I just made that up. I hope you enjoyed that song. Okay, so this is from What We've Forgotten, and it's from a section called Jesus Was a Badass, and So Are You. As we move toward this next part of the circle, we find ourselves looking at a list of names carved into the wall. There are so many that you can't even begin to count. Some are being added while you're watching. This is exactly why so many spiritual practices move to happening in secret. This is the memorial. These are their names. Those who lost their lives because of their power. Just look at what happened to Jesus. He's on the list. He was doing some real magic, and people were being healed by it. People were listening and beginning to stand in their power and purpose, and the uninvited said, "Nah, get him out of here." But people seem to like him, so let's take his stuff and change it a little. This is causing some active pain in the world, and Jesus was pretty clear about how he felt about oppression. If you hadn't heard, he didn't like it. He whipped the rich and flipped their tables right out of the temple. And for those in the back, Jesus wasn't white. He was probably a witch, and he didn't hate anybody but the rich. Jesus wasn't some white supremacist asshole collecting money. He was definitely hanging out with other witches, queers, and nerds. He was of service to those who had less. He was approachable. He was funny. He had a quick wit, and he had seen some shit. He took time to show up for people when they needed him, and he was definitely the kind of guy who would do his own stunts. Jesus is actually pretty rad, especially because he has a wand and a whip. So if, like me, you had some icky experiences with regard to the uninvited's co-opted version of Jesus, please feel free to use this time to destigmatize and cleanse your own timeline. He got taken out by the uninvited, too. He got strung up by his own community, just like the witch trials. So I'm going to take a break here for a second from reading and just talk about who are the uninvited. Well, they are the ones who are previously known as the colonial capitalist patriarchy. White supremacist, add that in there. And I call them the uninvited because no one invited them, right? None of us were like, hey, we need some people to really cause and wreak havoc here, and let's invite them, right? That didn't happen. They invited themselves. They showed up at our sacred suppers. They took over the table, and now they decide who eats, right? That's who the uninvited are. So, back to the book. So many people practiced spirituality in secret because it was dangerous. People began to hide it. So many people also left organized religion. Maybe because something about it didn't feel right. It's the institutionalization of something that's meant to be organic and natural that doesn't align. Are there sacred spaces and people in these systems? Of course there are. But as a whole, Christian churches have become entwined with the uninvited. Jesus would clearly sue for misrepresentation if he did come back here in person. And if the crucifixion wasn't enough, the witch trials were further messaging from the uninvited that magic was punishable by death. Judas himself was probably also an archetype to symbolize the kind of oppression that might follow if we didn't fall in line. So we learned to protect our magic. With the witch trials, it was their community that rang the alarms. The aftershock of all of this took generations to unravel, and now here we are, standing on the brink of massive change. It's impossible to control people who have a connection to their spirit. Because when you have a connection to your spirit, you check in with source. You can easily see what feels right, what feels in alignment. Your gut instincts become highly tuned, and you can feel a pin drop on your consciousness. You know when something doesn't feel right. We humans are realizing quickly, as we get back into balance with nature, that a lot of these systems we seem to be using here aren't right. They're very, very wrong. We're recognizing that these systems are broken because they're rooted in inauthentic power. Colonialism was designed to assimilate and indoctrinate people into systems of false supremacy. We are seeing truths come out that have been hidden for hundreds of years. Some are so recent that those who were told the lies are now seeing the truth firsthand. Generations of people are realizing that they were lied to and are committed to reconciliation, to re-education, to reparation. The uninvited clearly didn't predict that we'd rise in greater numbers. People are educating themselves, no longer willing to celebrate genocide on stolen land. We will not learn anything by waiting to talk. When listening to indigenous teachings and wisdom keepers, please remember it is medicine that people have been murdered for. When we stand in our authentic power, we stand for those who no longer can. Amplifying voices and listening is crucial. We are lucky to be alive in a time where so many of us can do what needs to be done to heal not just ourselves, but this beautiful place we share. We have finally infiltrated these systems enough to be able to reject them, to take control and topple them. We're getting close to being able to throw the switch. This will result in more global changes and evolution of our planet's systems, and we're all beginning to realize that trusting a few people to run the world and translate the important stuff wasn't such a great idea after all. So that's my little reading. But it's timely, right? Because when we think about what the uninvited are doing right now, we have a segment of the population who is recognizing that there are atrocities happening at the hands of armies that are funded by imperialism, right? And then we have another side that is indoctrinated. And I say indoctrinated because people, when they're not open to new information, it's an indoctrination, right? And I say that as a trauma survivor. Like, I grew up in indoctrination, and so this idea of coming outside of it and recognizing that, you know, new information is a good thing, that's what we're dealing with here, right? And this isn't saying that one person's better than another person. What I'm saying is that there's a level of density that's happening where you can imagine that it's a dirty window and there's light, the light is not getting through, right? We all have the capacity to see things in the same way and to see from a higher, you know, position in a higher self, meaning, you know, a higher vibration, a higher level outside of ego, to understand that sometimes the things that we grow up and learn are wrong. And that that's okay, right? That our perspectives can change, our perceptions can change. When we don't accept that things can change, that's indoctrination, right? When we don't have room for wonder or magic or hope or new information. So, what do we do, right, in these instances where, you know, arguing, you've all seen it on social media happening, right? People are freaking out. Because again, we're not built to process this. But we have to, right? We have to transmute this. I'm big on transmutation and transfiguration, right? Transmutation is the changing of one thing into another, right? Water to wine, Jesus the witch, right? That's magic. That's alchemy. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to do some singing bowl first. We're going to drop in, and I'm going to guide you in a practice, and then I'm going to upload it for you, and I'm going to send it to you. And we're going to spend some time together, right? And if you listen to it at 12, we'll all be together. If you listen to it after 12, you'll be with the energy, right? So the first thing we're going to do is some singing bowl. We're going to drop in. Again, get into that heart space. If you don't know what that is, just tap on your chest. Wake it up, right? That's what I'm doing. That's a ring that's making that sound. But just connecting, right? And you can ask your heart, what do you need to tell me? What do I need to know right now? Right? I love you and I'm listening. Okay? So I'm going to open this up. And we're going to do some spiritual activism, okay? But that's going to begin with you. Okay? And if you can, close your eyes. If that's not comfortable for you, maybe just look down. Focus on one thing. So we talk about source, we talk about energy. And I want you to imagine it, right? Imagine a light in the sky. It can be a star, the sun. It can be a flame on a candle, on a birthday cake, in the sky. As a joke. You can do that if you want. That's the great thing about visualization. I want you to focus on that light. And I want you to imagine that you, your heart, your body, is a vessel of light. And I want you to imagine connecting to that light, to that flame, that source of warmth, energy, raw power. I want you to connect to that. And imagine that it's filling you up. Talking about that guy Jesus, he always had his hands up, right? And all those paintings, hands up, hands out. Channeling. Bring in the light. All these prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, right? They were talking to Source. Muhammad channeled the Quran by working with the Archangel Gabriel. Holy books, holy source. So again, taking in that energy, as you breathe, imagine that you're breathing in the light. And as you breathe out, the air goes out, but the light stays in. And we talk about spiritual activism. What is that? Right? As we're filling with light, I want you to imagine now that that light is in you, that same light from that light source. In all the places in the world, in your community, in the human family, any places that may need more light, or the light's not getting through, or you just want to use your energy, your connection to that light to shine a light on people who need it. You can imagine it's like an energetic blanket. You might want to imagine it. Right? Maybe you're knitting it, crocheting. Maybe it's just there. But you're going to take that and you're going to imagine that you're moving it over all the places that need it. And if you need it, wrap it around yourself. Maybe you're wrapped in one corner and you're wrapping the rest because it's so huge. And now we're going to talk about the uninvited, because what do we do about them? Right? What do we do about them? Well, here's the good news. They're made of the same stuff we're made of. Scientifically, right? But their windows may be dirty. Right? Maybe there's not enough light getting through. We know there's not enough light getting through, right? If you've ever been in a situation where you were part of the uninvited, which many of us have, we want to imagine that we're going to shine our light, and it's like the Care Bear stare at those dirty windows, right? We're not healing them. We're not, doing anything without their consent. Because in spirituality, just like life, it's all about consent, right? If you don't have consent, express permission, then you don't do it, right? Harm to none. Consent is most important. But what we're imagining when we're dealing with the uninvited is that we're Care Bear staring at their dirty windows, right? Eventually, the light's going to get through. A little bit of Karate Kid, too. Wax on, wax off, right? Calling those higher selves forward. It may be drawing a perimeter, right? Maybe you want to draw a perimeter around all the people who are at the table energetically. Maybe you want to draw a perimeter around to keep everyone more safe as we do the Care Bear stare on the uninvited. Right? You can use your hands. You can imagine, again, pushing that energy back. Right? The energy of oppression. We have so many people, you always hear me say, as above, so below. And we have so many people on the planet right now showing up, right? Writing letters, phoning, putting their bodies on the line, showing up at protests, doing the so below work, right? The work in our ordinary reality that we're living in on planet Earth. We can assist by doing this work in spirit, right? As above, on earth as it is in heaven, right? Do the work above. Push back those forces of density. Shadow, right? We need shadow. Shadow is important. But we need balance. We need more light to get through. We need these people that are supposed to be in charge and doing the greater good. We need them to do their jobs. These leaders. Because we're seeing clearly now. Right? We're seeing clearly how much of an agenda there's been. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of things coming to light that we needed to know about who's really in charge. This is the first time ever in my history of doing activism that I have not heard back from our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Canada. Usually there's like a form letter or something. Nothing. And that tells me he's overwhelmed. And I like that. Right? But wrapping those leaders in blankets and reminding them of what they're made of and who they are. And that at the end of the day, we are in charge. These are democracies. And if they're not democracies, we will dismantle them until they are. Again, throwing that light, right? Throwing those intentions, those beautiful intentions, right? Again, harm to none. We're asking for higher self, higher wisdom, that their hearts rebalance, right? We're asking for assistance from greater intelligence. Help us move through this. If you're connected to your ancestors or you have any helpers, ask them for help, right? Ask them for help. We need to be able to flip this switch. Too many people are dying. Too many people are leaving the planet. Too many children. The planet is suffering, right? We have major climate change. So we can wrap the planet in light, right? Love. Again, all from that light source that we started out with. That cake in the sky, that joke, right? Connecting in. Feeling the circle. Feeling everyone who's listening. Everyone together who's taken time out to be in this hard space. Feeling that love without having to introduce ourselves, right? It's the great thing about working in spirit. And so I don't want you to disconnect from the light. I want you to continue to feel that light. And if you want, put that light right into your heart. Before you turn back the notifications, right? Remembering who you are and what you're a part of. How amazing it is. And knowing that we can't help anybody else when we're drowning. Right? We can't be of service when we're drowning. I'm going to sing a little song for you. Connect you, ground you. You can come back if you have your eyes closed. Start coming back into the here and the now. I'm going to do a little song for you. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey, 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 So what I want to leave you with today is when you're in these moments, right? When your notifications are on, you're in the middle of your life, things are intense. I want you to remember, right? This moment, these moments where you connected with source energy, where you invited the light to fill you, where you not only filled your cup, but everybody else's, the collectives, the planets, and remembering what you're a part of. Because you're going to get tested, right? These things are going to happen. But you can remind yourself, right? Remember your magic. Remember your power. Remember it's part of us. Okay? Hang in there. It was great to be with you. I hope maybe you'll take the time that you have left and the time that you've given yourself to write down anything that came through, anything that you may have heard from your heart, anything that you may have heard from the collective or from the circle. And just give yourself some time and space to honor the things that we're living through. Okay? And I'll leave you with love and light and service. Thanks for being with me.